Welcome back everybody to part 3. This is where I'm going to choose the pages and put the signatures together for this chapter 1 design team project. We've got the cover made. So it measures, if you remember, it measures 7 1/4. So I'm going to have my pages 7 inches high. They're going to be sewn or stuck directly to the back of the journal, so to the spine. So I'm going to cut them at I'm going to cut them at 10 inches, but so that the width of the pages is 5 inches. Some might be slightly different. We'll sort that out as we go along. So I basically want my papers to be 7 inches by 10 inches because we're going to fold them over to fit in here. Let's fold this one and then you'll see. So when we put the signatures together, they'll fit in the book like so and so. This is going to be a writing journal, predominantly a writing journal, and I'm going to do 5 signatures with 7 sheets of paper in each signature. Can't even remember now if I said that right. It's going to be 5 signatures with 7 sheets of paper in each signature. The sheets are called folios. We're going to fold those, so we should end up with, I think, 160 sides. And I'm going to have one of the chapter 1 papers as the front page of each signature. So I've chosen these 5 images, these 5 sheets, and I've already cut those down to 10 inches by 7 inches, so that this is going to wrap around the rest of my pages. What I'm going to have in the rest of the signature is a mixture of pages, and I'm going to have 3 tea dyed, and then I'm going to have one, although this is predominantly neutral colours, I am going to have a coloured page in each signature, and then I'm going to have a book page in each signature and some kind of ledger or vintage page. The book page is a vintage as well. So I just need to go and get the tea dyed papers that are being flattened downstairs, and then we'll put these signatures together. Okay, so I can't really give you a formula for why I've chosen this number of signatures and pages. I do think some of that is experience. I've made a lot of journals, as many of you will know. This should give plenty of room to add a few pockets, a few clip-ins, but leave lots of room for writing and for whoever wants this journal, if anybody wants it, to add their own bits to it. So that's all I can say about that, really. I sometimes make very fat journals, sometimes not so much. So I've got my signatures here. I've got my page on the top, although in this one it's on the bottom, but we'll sort that out in a minute. So this is my first signature. I particularly like this page. I've already folded it, so you can see that it's... and we will fold everything really crisply as we go through. I sort of do this in stages. So the first thing I'm going to do is fold my pages in half. I can do in half with the tea dyed papers. I could put tiny little pockets or little flip backs on these, but I think I'm just going to keep this journal very simple. If you know my work, you probably know that I quite like what I call a neat finish. I've done more raggedy journals and things coming out and all that sort of thing. This particular paper pack would really lend itself to a proper shabby chic sort of sewing based journal, but that's not really my I don't know, I don't find that style very easy to do, so I'm sticking to my own style. This page, I want to use the whole page, so I'm doing a fold and I'm doing it at this point roughly. I have one vintage needlework book, so there's a page from that in each of the signatures. Obviously goes with the theme. This is my coloured page, and again this is pretty much, when I fold it in half, it's pretty much the 5 inches, so I'm just going to fold that at the moment. I'm just going to fold that straight in half, and in each signature I'm also going to have another of the chapter 1 papers, which I think I told you before I've printed on both sides. Let me just cut this one down, one moment. Sorry about that, forgotten I'd not done that. So this again is going in the journal, but I've chosen this page, a couple of these, because I think I might do something fancy, like cutting around this edge, just so that it looks a little bit different. But for the time being, we'll just pop it in like that. So I do that for each of my signatures, and then I roughly work out where I want what. So I'd probably go plain, maybe that one next, and then the book page, then that one, then that one, then that one, and I think I'm going to have the coloured page in the middle so that there's something interesting at the centre of each signature. So that's the start of my first signature. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're having 5 signatures of 8 pages. That's to get my 160, which is what I wanted. So it's not 7, it's 6. It's 8. Oh, goodness me, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That will be fine. So that's our first one. Let me just take you through the next one. So this is our piece that we've already cut down to 7 by 10. Probably doing a little bit early in the morning. Okay, so that's the outer page. For this one, I've chosen a tracing paper printout, so it's actually the same image as that. So let me just swap that around, one moment. Swap that. So I've got a different image. I've got 2 tracing paper pages, so they're going in the 2nd signature and the 4th signature. So this again needs to be cut down. done that before. So that's my tracing paper page. I've got this, I thought it'd be nice to have a sort of costume type page in there. So this is obviously going to be a shorter page and it's a bit raggedy on this edge. I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'm just going to trim it a little bit and leave this torn bit. A few little tears here and there don't really matter. And then just decide where I'm going to fold it. So I'm not going to fold it dead in the middle this time. Just going to do that. I might even go a little bit further so that we get the majority of her. In fact, we could go right to the end of this. How wide is that? I'm going to go right to the end, but I'm going to get most of her face in. Something along those lines for that one. That'll be in the centre anyway, so that'll look quite nice. This is our sewing page. I've got a French journal page. I bought some of these recently from Kay's Vintage from Etsy. I hope that I will remember to put a link for that underneath. And then our 3 tea-dyed papers. Okay, so let's work out the order. This is our outside piece. I'm going to have this in the middle. This one, this one, this one, this one, and then I'm going to have the tracing paper, I think, over that image. And what's happened is that this tracing paper, some of the tea dyeing on it matches this image. I didn't do that deliberately, that's just the sort of thing that happens. So that's our second signature, and that will go like that in the book. So I'm going to do that process now with the other 3 8-page signatures, and then I will come back and show you how I trim it down. Okay, so here's our 5 signatures initially put together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 pages in each. Have a quick look now to see how that's going to sit roughly in there. And this is my process now for refining these, cutting them down and deciding how I want them. And I do use a craft knife. I want my pages to be even on the edges, and I do it quite meticulously really for most journals. So first thing I do is take the outside page and use my bone folder to make sure that crease is nice and steady. I do that with the next sheet of paper. I'm going to cut this off on my guillotine at the 7 inches. I'm going to pop it in here, so it should be exactly the same size, and I use my steel ruler on the edge. Take that off. So we've got our first 2 pages. Then I've got this one. Now if you remember, maybe you remember, I said I was going to trim this in a slightly different way. I thought I might take this out, and I am going to do that. I don't want to get this wrong. I'm making quite a quick decision, but I think I will stick to it for now. So if you can bear to watch me do this, you're welcome. When you're doing this sort of fussy cutting, you're supposed to move the paper, not the scissors. Pick a pair of scissors. I'm leaving an edge. And the beauty of these printed papers is if this doesn't work out, doesn't look right, or I decide I don't like it, I can just reprint it, pop it in. This is like watching paint dry for you all. Sorry about this. But I just want you to get a feel for how I work, really. It's a Saturday today, so I want to say I'm enjoying the weekend. The days, even though I go out to work 2 or 3 days a week, it's because we're still in lockdown at this point. It's the 20th of February. We might get some, what I was going to say was all the days are melding into one, really. There we go. That took a bit longer than I expected, but there we go. We've got our embroidered page in there. I mean, it might be nice to put a bit of lace behind that or something. I don't know. Next one is my sewing book page. That's a bit tall. So I'm just going to, I could do it on the guillotine, but I'll just do it with my craft knife. Cut that off there. Another. And what I tend to do at this point is take out the last page I did, pop this one in and cut it down. Need a new blade. There we go. That's that one. This page, I am going to cut it down. I'm hoping that it'll fit inside and not protrude too much outside the edge, because I cut my pages evenly. When I'm folding these initially, I'm sort of keeping in mind that as you get further towards the centre of a signature, your pages actually get shorter in this direction, because they're piling up in here, so they're sitting further forward in the signature. And you can see that this one is just protruding very slightly, even though I folded it at slightly less than the 5 inches. I wanted a fold in this page, and when I did that, I made sure that it was shorter than this page, just to allow for this eventuality, really. Not sure if that made sense. But there's many a time I've done this next step here, cut this little sliver off, and I've also cut my folded edge off. I don't think that's happened this time, so I'll show you in a minute. I think that's fine. So let's take our last 2 pages This one is obviously a lot taller. I could fold this up and have some pockets in the middle. I might actually do that. Let's do this page first. I'll just cut it down to the 7. It's just quicker to do it on the guillotine, really. Put that in there. And then this page, I can see it's about 8 1/4. So if I fold this up, I'm going to have a little pocket in the middle of the signature, which might be quite nice. So I'm going to use my scoreboard for this, just so that it's neat. Sorry, I'm such a neat freak. Such a neat freak. So I want it at 7 inches, just to be on the safe side. I'm shifting it sort of 1/16 of an inch down and just gently scoring that. I'm going to fold that up. Quite nice with the image going the other way on the other side. Folding this so we get as even a crease as we can. So you're creating a fair bit of bulk here. I'm not going to stitch or glue or anything like that at the moment. I'm going to decide all of that later. Let's cut this down widthwise. And that's my first signature trimmed. So I've got my chapter 1 paper here, tea dyed paper. This is the other chapter 1 paper that I've cut in a decorative way. This is the sewing page, another tea dyed page here. This is the ledger, vintage ledger, tea dyed, and this is our centre of the signature. Just take you back through this way. Flip out there. I like the way this layers that. So that's done. So I'm going to go through that similar process for all of the signatures, and then I'll come back and show you what they look like. Right, so these are our pages, all trimmed. It's about an hour later, I think. It's quite long-winded, but you can see that what I'm aiming for with this book, I think. But what I need to do now, I want to show you anyway, because I've done one or two slightly different things. Just put them here. But I also want to show you that how I check that everything is strong enough. So I know this paper and this paper is fine. This book is quite old, but it's good quality, quite thick paper, so that doesn't need any reinforcing. And the same with the ledger paper. It's a little bit brittle, but I'm leaving that as is. And you saw me make the pockets in this one. So that's our first signature. The second one. This was a ledger sheet, a vintage ledger sheet. I'm not going to reinforce it. It's quite thin paper, but it's not cracking. It feels fine. Wasn't quite sure how to deal with this one, to be honest, and I might still cut the bottom off, but for the time being, I folded it up and then I folded these in. I didn't really want to lose any of this. But if I turn that into a pocket, I'd have to glue it, not stitch it, if I want these to flap open. So that's a sort of thought in process, really. I actually also cut the corners out where I'd folded it, just to reduce the bulk. So we'll leave that as it is for the time being. It's our tracing page, and this is our centre page. Okay, so that's number 2. This one, I've got a notebook page here. Because where I've torn it out of the notebook, it was glued into the book, so it is a little bit fragile. So for this one, I'm just going to run some glue stick up the middle there, and I'm going to use some washi tape. Oops. And you can see there how easily that tore, so definitely doing the right thing. I've got my washi tape all muddled up. There we go. So I'm going to just pop that down there, and I'm going to take it over the back as well. Sometimes I would just do this on one side, sometimes on both sides. And the reason I put the glue on is because a lot of washi tape doesn't stick that well, and we don't want this coming apart. Let's just refold that. And then when it comes to sewing it together, we'll be stitching through the washi tape, a double layer of washi tape. So that's that one. That's our sewing book. That's another page from the kit. And again, this one has cracked a little bit because it's against the grain, but I'm not worried about that falling apart, so that's going to stay as it is. In this one, we've got, I've used a vintage document. Again, I've folded this up. This is old, probably early 1900s or late 1800s. There's not, it's part, obviously, page 3 of another document. So am I going to reinforce this one? I think I might. I think I'll just, to be on the safe side, but just do it on this side. This is actually Tim Holt's tissue tape. I don't know if he still makes this. I've had it, or if Ranger still make it. I've had it a long time. So there we go, we've got that. It's the sewing book, that's fine. It's our tracing paper page. And this was a double page that I took out of a vintage Flower Fairy book. It needed to be cut down. It was fragile, very fragile down here, but it needed to be cut down as well to fit into the book. So I just did exactly that, cut it in half, cut it down a little bit and rejoined it with the washi tape. The only decision I've got to make with this one is that I've had the coloured pages on the inside for most of the others. But I think I'm going to leave that way round for that one because I like the way the tracing paper looks. And then our final signature, number 5. This is from a visitor's book. It's perfectly not a problem with that. This is the other shaped page. It's from our sewing book. And again, this is from a Flower Alphabet book. It's quite thick paper. So that's fine. So that's what our signatures look like. My next task will be to go through them one by one and make any additions that I want to have either sewn in or that would be awkward if the book is put together. So things that I want to do before I actually sew the book together. So that will be part 4.